Today I'm going to show you how to draw the iPad stand. We're going to use the large tool set. We're also going to use a new tool set called the solid tool palette. So we go and select solid tools and we put that over there. We're not going to use it just yet, but we will be using that later. I'm going to start by drawing a rectangle from the origin. So click on origin, drag, type in 210, 140. 210 by 140. Shift Z to zoom in. We're going to use the push-pull tool. We're going to extend that up 12 millimeters. We're going to triple click on that, control click, make that a group. Okay, now that we've made that a group, we're going to extend. We're going to draw on the end of this object. So I'm going to use the orbit tool to go around the end there to see it better. I'm going to draw a rectangle on here. Because this is a group, when I draw the rectangle on there, it won't be part of that group because I don't have that group in edit mode. So let me pull this out, and we're going to do that 140 millimeters. This object is, although connected, it's separate, and so we'll be able to separate that from there. We now have the two parts. The advantage in drawing on the end there, however, is that it's exactly the same width, and any guidelines we draw on the side here will actually be on both. So we're going to do some guidelines here, 30 millimeters in from each side, and we're also going to do 40 millimeters in from the bottom there. Okay, now we're going to modify this one here. So we double click that to get it into edit mode, and we're going to draw a rectangle from that across to there and up 12 millimeters. So R for rectangle, intersection of the two guidelines, across to the other guidelines, shift, and then up, and tab 80, 12, enter. Now we should be able to push this through now to the other side, and if I touch this on that bottom edge, that'll make sure that the push-pull only goes as far as that bottom edge. And if we orbit around the top, we'll notice we have a hole all the way through. While we're here, we're also going to put an arc on this bottom surface here. So A is for arc tool. I'm going to connect from that intersection to that intersection, and we're going to have a bulge, which is this distance here, of 20 millimeters. And we should be able to push that through as well. Okay, I think they'll do for the modifications for that so far, and we'll go over some other modifications you'll be able to do to the top and the sides later, if you wish. What we're going to do is we're going to change over to modify this piece now. Now we need to open it in edit mode, and where these two guidelines intersect, we're going to draw a rectangle from this side, shift to that side there. So that's 80, 12, enter. Now by doing that, what we've done is we've isolated this end into 3 different areas. What we're going to do is take these 2 outside areas, this one, and push that through 110 millimeters, and push that one through and come across and touch there to make sure it's exactly the same, forming this T shape. And that's basically it. That's the 2 parts that make up the CD rack. What we need to do now is need to take this piece, we need to rotate it and feed it in through this slot so it engages in that part of the job and forms an assembled iPad stand. So that's in a couple of steps. We need the first step, we're going to rotate it, so hit Q for rotate. Go down to this bottom here, we're going to round that one there in the green rotation. So click to center it, to create an arm, rotate 90 degrees. Now we're going to move it in 2 parts. It's important we do it in 2 steps because this bottom corner here, point in group, is going to engage over here on that rectangle we made. Then finally, by selecting that point there and pushing it down, it will snap to that intersection of the rectangle we drew and perfectly align that job there. And if we zoom around, we'll see how that's done. Okay, so we're nearly finished. However, it doesn't lie down like that. It actually sits up at an angle. And so what we've got to do is rotate these two objects. Now, it's much easier to rotate these two objects as a group. So if we select the two groups by selecting one and then shift the other one, we can now control click and make that a group, which makes it easiest to rotate. It's even easier if we look at from the, in this case we'll use the front perspective. We're looking at the end there, and what we're going to do, we're going to change this camera to parallel, just less confusing. We're going to go Q, we're going to go from that point there in the green direction, we're going to grab that little end point there, and then we're going to go up and make it parallel to the red axis. Where that means it's touching the red axis there, touching the red axis there. And now we have this object standing up at the right angle. But there's a bit of a problem, and that is that it's touching on a point when it'd be much more stable if this was a flat surface. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the solid tools now to modify this object so this bottom edge is flat. Now we could draw a line across from here to there, and it would push-pull until it got to this curved bit here, and that's where it'll all go wrong. But it doesn't work very well. So a better method is to actually create another three-dimensional object which we use to cut through the drawing we've made and to level off the bottom of the legs. And I'll show you how that's done. We're going to go over and start from the origin again and draw a rectangle out here on the ground, and we're going to push-pull that up until it touches that bottom edge there. We go triple click that, 1, 2, 3, make that a group. Now before, when we made this object a group of two objects grouped together, it's not going to allow us to do the solid tool work on it now. So what we've got to do is just explode that once. We know exploded once because we can select these objects separately now. But they are still groups, and it's important they're groups because the solid tool thing will not work with anything but a group. So select this bottom edge here, select this one which is called trim, and just touch that there. And you'll see already that's been trimmed off. Touch this one back there, that get trimmed off. Now when I select this and delete it, you'll notice that these bottom edges now running parallel to the ground. And they're flat, much more stable. I'm going to suggest a couple of more modifications. This square edge at the top here, it looks a bit boring, so we might change that into a round one. But before we do that, we need to open it up in edit mode. So double click. I'm going to put an arc on the front here. Make sure it's symmetrical, so on both sides, and then touching that surface there. This will allow me now to push that off there. Remember, it needs to be in edit mode. And finally, a little groove on this front surface here on the side going right through will serve to hold the iPad in place. So you just move down in there, double click on that to edit mode. I'm going to draw an arc from there to there and down. Now I've drawn that there, I can push pull that to the other side. Voila. All it's left to do now is to render that. Color it in using the right colored textures you want to use for wood. I'm going to choose the purple heart, I think. Color that in. Color that one in. And there we go. Finished. Don't need the guides anymore, so we can get rid of those. So just go edit, delete guides, zoom to extent, and we can take a picture of that. Save that, render this multiple times, 4 times, save each one separately, and that's it. Thank you very much.